welcome to this class, DIT 2108, CIT 2106, Computing Projects, Development and Approaches. I am Madam Linda Sawe from the Department of IT, the School of Computing and Informatics. Today we'll be looking at basic proposal writing. We'll be analyzing what goes into the process of proposal writing. And by the end of this lesson, the learner should be able to define what an academic proposal is. Then the learner should also understand the importance of project proposal writing. The learner should also outline the main parts of a proposal. And then the learner should also be able to write a full academic project proposal. So let's start by defining what is an academic project proposal. Now, an academic project proposal is the first step in producing a thesis or a major project. Now, at the end of each of our courses, or almost of all our courses, we should carry out a project, or we should write up a project. So proposal writing is that first step into developing your complete project, or coming up with your complete project that will be used to evaluate or to see what you have learned in the entire course, and even be able to wrap it up with a project or something to show. So academic proposal writing is basically that process, or that's where the journey of coming up with a project starts. And a proposal is basically an intent to convince a supervisor or an academic committee that your topic, the topic you will choose to write on, and approach is sound, and that you can gain approval to proceed with the actual project or research. So as you can hear the word proposal, it means it's something that you are intending to do. So it is therefore an intent to convince your supervisor or the academic committee that has to approve your proposal, or that intent that you are putting across, so that you can gain the right or that approval to be able to now endeavor in the complete project that you are proposing. Now, an academic project proposal should show your theoretical positioning, which is what you are proposing here. What are you putting across here? Your conceptualization and your relationship to past work in the area. Now, most of the things that we are trying to do has probably been done maybe from a different angle, or maybe something has been done towards it but not what you want to do. So you need to compare, so bring out the relationship between what you are proposing or what you are intending to do against what has been done by other researchers or by other people. So it is good to bring that clear cut, or even that clear picture, to the academic committee that will be seeing your work, or even your supervisors, so that they see that this is an actual contribution that is viable or not. So most academic, or all academic proposals should show that. It should show your theoretical positioning, meaning where you're coming from, where is your perspective coming from, where is your point coming in, where is your input coming in from, and then what has been done in that particular area, and what new thing are you trying to bring on board. Then an academic project proposal is expected to contain the three elements that you see down there. The first thing is a rationale. Every proposal or every project proposal should have a rationale, and a rationale is a choice of topic showing why it's important or useful within the concerns of the discipline, of your discipline or your course. In our case, we are IT students, so we need to bring that perspective. We need to indicate why the topic you are choosing, or the topic you are proposing, is actually of importance, and why is it of concern in our field or in that area that you're picking, then it should be sensible also, and it is good to indicate that what are some of the limitations in that proposal you're bringing up. Then do not promise what you cannot possibly deliver. So it's important to be realistic here, so that you are proposing something that you will be within your means, something that you will be able to do. Then the second thing that your proposal should have is a review of the existing published work. This is literature review, basically. You should be able to include what literature has been documented in the line that you're proposing to do. So indicate or show literature that relates to the topic you're proposing to do. Then here you also need to tell your proposed work will build on the existing studies and yet explore a new territory. So what are you bringing on board? What are you adding up? What new thing are you bringing? What are you adding to what has already been done? So quote literature that exists about what you're doing, and even show the gap that you are trying to bridge. And then the next one is show it should have an outline of your intended approach or methodology. How are you intending to carry out this proposal? What model are you going to use? So with comparisons maybe to existing published work. Maybe somebody has done what you're trying to do but using a different methodology. Maybe you want to use another one. Maybe you want to bring an added perspective that maybe was omitted in the previous study. So perhaps including things like cost, resources needed, and timeline when you hope to get things done. So it is good to note that you need to include what cost implications will this project have in your budget. What are some of the timelines? How long will it take for whatever you're proposing to get done? What models do you intend to use? How do you intend to do some things like data collection and so on? So a rationale, a proposal should have those three things. You're saying a rationale, which is your choice of topic. Why that topic? Why is it important? Then a review of existing published work. What literature is available? Then an outline of how you intend to carry out your proposal or your methodology. Then let's consider some of the factors to have in mind when you're writing a proposal. Now, when considering a project proposal, students should look for a critical and an analytical approach to the following. One is specification of the goals of the project. Now, every project has a goal. Every project has an objective. You need to have a clear specification of how you will come up with the goals and the objectives of your project. Then you need to outline the strategy and methodology for achieving these goals. How are you going to achieve the goals you have identified previously? Is it doable? Is it unrealistic? You need to have an approach, a way, a plan on how you will be able to specify or be able to meet the goals that you have specified. Then you need to have literature references with comments to their relevance. So you need to know how, again, what literature is available already about what you want to do. How are you going to get that literature? How are you going to find the information that is required of you about that particular item you are intending to do? Then you need to have a basic understanding of the principles underlying the project. So you also need to know what are some of the principal issues that are underlying along that project proposal you're trying to come up with. Then also foreseeable problems. Yeah, you need to know and plan for risks in case they happen. Risks along this particular project. You need to plan and know what mitigation measures are you putting in place, so that in case there is a delay in resource, in case the timelines are maybe against your wish, maybe there is a delay and such like things, you need to plan for those. And then last but not least is that the proposal should be of reasonable length. You need to know that your proposal should have a minimum of 15 pages and a maximum of 25. So it's good to also know what kind of document are you preparing in terms of number of pages, quantity-wise. And then again, it's not just about the quantity, you need to have quality. So your proposal should contain all the elementary parts that we are about to look at in a few, but it's good that you know that your proposal should link between 15 to 25 pages. Now, let's look at the proposal document main sections. Now, the actual content of the proposal may vary depending on the student and your supervisor's interest. So, it's good to appreciate that our interests will vary. Therefore, the interest of the student and the interest of the supervisor will determine the actual content of the proposal. But in the bare minimum, the proposal should have the following sections. It should have a title page. We'll explain what should be in the title page in the next slide. It should have a declaration page. It should have a table of contents. It should have chapter 1, which chapter 1 will have background or the project area. It should have the problem statement. It should have the proposed solution. It should have the proposed project title. It should have the project objectives. And then it should also have the project scope, the project justification, the project risk and mitigation. It should have the proposed project budget. It should have the project schedule. And then you move to chapter 2, which will cover the literature review. And then chapter 3, that will have methodology. And then the last part is the references. So we will look at each of these sections in detail, and the first section I want us to embark on is the title page. Now, the title page is usually the first page of the proposal, and it must contain the following in a center kind of alignment. The first thing it should have is the full title of the project. Every first page should have the title of the proposed project. Then it should have the candidate's name, the registration number. You all have a registration number, so it should have your registration number. It should have the name of your supervisor, and then it should have the name of the course you are doing and the qualification towards which the project proposal contributes. Now, in the next slide, we have a sample title page. Our sample title page has the name of our university at the top, Mount Kenya University. It has the school which you belong to, that is School of Computing and Informatics. It has the department you are in, Department of Information Technology. It has the project title or the proposed project proposal title. It has your name and registration number, and then the contribution. It says that the project proposal is submitted for partial fulfillment of requirement for and the program. So you will put those words in that exact manner. Note that they're in the center alignment. So it is required of us that it is in the center alignment and in that order. The university, the school, your department, the proposed project title, your name and registration number, and then the contribution that the proposal is making towards achieving what qualification. In our case, it is certificate and diploma in information technology. You will put that. Then the next page, number 2, is the declaration page. Now, this page contains the student's declaration of the originality of the project report. You need to own your work. You need to declare that that is work that you are doing. It's not copied work. It's not bought work. It's work that you are actually doing it personally. So this page contains the student's declaration of the originality of the project report. Now, this declaration page must be signed by the student, and the declaration page will follow the format as in the next slide. So this has to be signed. It's a declaration you are signing against the declaration to say that this is your own work and you have not copied it from somewhere. So it will have the following words. It will have this kind of layout here, whereby you hereby declare that this project report is based on my original work, to mean it's not borrowed, it's not copied, it's not somebody else's work, except for citations and quotations, which you will have to do maybe during your literature review, or maybe when you're referring to something that is said by somebody else. You're trying to appreciate work that has been done by somebody else and have been duly acknowledged. So you have to acknowledge any work that is borrowed. And then I also declare that it has not been previously and currently submitted for any other degree award at Mount Kenya University. It's good to appreciate that. Then you need to sign against that, and then your supervisor also needs to certify that the report is true and it was undertaken by the above named students under my supervision. So I also, the supervisor or whoever is guiding you through the work also has to support that declaration. So this is the second page, the declaration page. It comes in that format again. And then we go to the third page, which is the table of contents. Now the table of contents is will be automatically generated by you as you develop your project. Now this is usually the third page, and it should contain the table of contents. Most of the word processors support automatic generation of table of contents. So table of contents basically identifies the contents and organization of the document. So it is basically what the document entails. Now it is made up of the section headings and the page numbers. So, and note that the table of contents should be generated automatically using a respective word processor, like maybe word processing, MS Word, for example, or any word processor that you are using as a student. So you should be able to automatically generate it. This is not something to worry about. You just identify the sections that you want to appear on your table of contents, and it will automatically be generated for you. Now that is the third topic, and then you move on to the fourth page. That I said that is the third page. Now you move on to the fourth page, and the fourth page is usually your chapter 1. Now this is where your main document starts. It starts at the fourth page, and the contents of the chapter 1 will be in the following outline. So chapter 1 should be between a minimum of 2 pages and a maximum of 3 pages, and it should consist the following sections. So your chapter 1 normally goes to 2 to 3 pages, between 2 to 3 pages, and it should have the sections that we're identifying here. The first section is the background information. Now, the background information normally spans through half a page to a maximum of a page. Now, as the name suggests, background is information that is there already. This is information that is laying towards a foundation, and this is usually a detailed background of information about the project research area and about the client. So it gives you a background of what you are talking about in your research, or even proposing in your proposal. Then it should be clear on what business the client is involved in and how operations are currently being conducted. So it gives you that foundation, that background, that knowledge that you require about the research that is being carried out. Then it sets the stage of the problem that will arise. So it also sets a base of where you are now coming in. Why are you trying to bring or to cite or to lay this foundation of the problem you wish to solve? So background information is very important. It gives you that foundation of what project you want to carry out in this particular institution, or in this particular scenario that you have observed that requires a solution. Then that's the first item in chapter 1, the background information. And then the second item is the problem statement. Now you've given us a background. You now have a base to put your problem statement. And the problem statement is usually a maximum of half a page, and this is a statement of the problem that the project is intended to address. So it is like giving us a platform of what problem you're trying to solve. Now it should be clearly or it should clearly show the problem in the light of the project research and its contributions to the solution. then ideally it should originate from the way the organization currently performs its functions, as you had earlier indicated in the background information. Then each problem should be stated clearly with a brief explanation on how it arises from the functions to be taken or to be undertaken. So your problem statement, this is where your bargaining power is. You have to show that there is a gap. Having mentioned or given a background, having given that information, it's good to now show that this is the gap that you are trying to bridge, and you're doing it in a problem statement in a maximum of half a page. The third item in chapter 1 is the proposed solution. You've given a background, you've given the problem. Now, what solution are you proposing? This should be a maximum of half a page, and this is a high-level description of the proposed system, touching on major system functionality or features that you're trying to put or across or to bring on board. So the proposed solution is an actual or a high-level description of what you intend to do in terms of coming up with a solution to that problem. This again is very key. How you put it up will either be convincing or not convincing, and how you try to show that your problem will be solved by the solution that you are providing, or the problem you had already said or brought out in the problem statement will actually be solved by the proposed solution is very key. After that, the next item in chapter 1 is the proposed project title. So you will have your proposed project title clearly stated in this section. Again, your choice of words is very important in how you lay out your title, because this is what every person will meet before they even read your work. This is like the face of your project. So it is very important that you have a good title representing, or from your title I should be able to tell what this system is actually doing. It should be convincing enough. Don't just go for a title anyhow. You need to think very well, because this is what every person trying to access your work or read your work will meet. After that, you have, or still in chapter 1, you have the project objectives. Now, our project objectives must be clear, concise, smart in that case, and smart here is specific, meaning it should be clear and to the very point. It should be well laid out and well explained. It should be measurable, meaning it should be measured in terms of units. Maybe you need to quantify it so that it's clear. Then you need to get objectives that are achievable. An objective that you know you will be able to attain it. You will be able to show something for it at the end of the project. Then your objective should be realistic. It should be real. Don't take an abstract kind of relationship of objective. And then it should be time bound. Yeah, should be an objective that is met within a certain period of time. It should not be an objective that is going forever. You know that your project proposal is bound by time. Your project itself is bound by time. So you need to realize that your objectives have to be smart in that case. Then the objectives should be provided, including research and system development related objectives. So don't be abstract or maybe just not clear with your objectives. Your objectives should be clear, straight to the point. And as we've said, it should be clear, concise, and smart. Smart here are those terms we have talked about there. Then note that the objectives are the basis upon which the success of the project will be evaluated. If the objectives of your proposed objectives will be met, then the project will be a success. If you don't meet your objectives, then that project is a flop. So it's good that you note, as you're choosing your objective, your project success will be evaluated against the objectives that you had stated. Then, therefore, they should basically address each of the problems identified in your problem statement and documented in the problem statement section above, or that we have earlier seen. And then keywords like, you can use investigate, to develop, to analyze, Those are the kind of words that you should use when you are writing or coming up or listing your objectives. Use words that mean that you will be doing something, to demonstrate, to investigate, to analyze, among others. Those are some of the words that you should use to determine. So those are the structure or the layout that your objectives should follow. Then after identifying the objectives, you need to clearly state your scope, your project scope. Now, this is a brief description of what will be covered and what cannot be covered and why. Now, it's good to be very clear. It's good to lay out and be very strategic in the size of your project so that your project is not too big or too small again. So it's good to know what scope you are wishing to cover in your project and what will not covered for what reason. Now, you need to identify the activities, the processes, the procedures to be handled by the project, product, or deliverable that will come out of your project. Then note that the scope will provide an indicator of the proposed system functionalities. So don't take up a very big scope. Don't take up a very small scope, because a small scope will limit you. A big scope might mean that you will not meet your objectives by the end of the project. So it's good to be real. It's good to be reasonable so that your project is not too small or too big. Then we have project justification. Now, this is a brief justification for the proposed project, showing why the project is worthwhile. So you need to justify yourself. Why is this project important? Why is it viable? Why is it doable? Why is it of importance to us? So it's good to justify that your project is actually of importance. It's of great contribution to the line that you are in, or the discipline that you are in, or even the course that you are doing. Then we move on to the project risk and mitigation. Now, this is the section that contains a list of the project risks that you are anticipating. Remember, a risk is an uncertain event or activity in the future that may happen and will be of harm to yourself, or to the project. So it's good to identify some of the project risks and what mitigation measures are you putting in place against these risks. Yeah, so you need to know that projects are bound to, or misfortunes are bound to happen, or something that you didn't anticipate or expect to happen may happen. That's what we are calling a risk. And every project is bound to meet up or to get into a risky situation. So that risk should be planned for, and you should even have ways of coming out of the risk. So it's good to know that. And then you need to list any uncertainties that may impact on the project and the strategies to mitigate them and even come out of them in case you get yourself in it. So that is something to plan for, and for any project, risk management is something not to overlook. So it's something to put in your consideration, and as you even plan, you need to plan and even budget for risks in case they occur. Then you also need to propose or to have the proposed project budget. Now, this should generally address all the envisaged resources that will enable the development of the system to be a success. So you need to plan. You need to have a budget for your for what you will require. Any resources that you will need, you need to plan for it. And then the key items are usually in the category of hardware. Yeah, we are doing an IT project. You may require some hardware. You will also need some software. You also need some human kind of resource, and you also any other costs that can be incurred. So you need to categorize them, or maybe just group them so that you don't forget any. If you need to buy some hardware device, if it's a computer, maybe some biometric kind of devices, maybe you need cameras in your research or in your project, you need to have some hardware. Maybe you need some applications, some application software, some applications that you will use to develop application programs for coming up with program development tools, maybe testing tools and such like things. Then you have human. Maybe you may need some people to collect data. You may need some analysis of data data and such like things. And then any other costs, you need to plan for contingencies. You need to plan for stationery. You may need to buy printing devices. You may need to plan to buy some paper, pen, such like things. So you need to plan for any stationery that may be required. Even travel costs. Maybe you're traveling to a certain point to collect data. All that is grouped in any other resources. So it's good to have a budget, and a budget can be tabulated. You can just put the item, maybe the quantity and the amount, and then the total budget down there. So you can tabulate it, you can put it in a table in that manner. And then the next thing is a project schedule. Again, we've said that a project is bound by time. Time here is schedule. So you need to plan so that you don't overdo some things within or for a long time and disadvantaging other parts of the project. So you need to know that if your project is spanning through 6 months, you need to plan yourself so that the 6 months is fully utilized and well utilized, so that you have a functional product at the end of the 6 months. If it's a 3 months project, you need to plan for the 3 months. So this is a breakdown of all the tasks that will be carried out in the course of carrying the project. Then an estimate of the duration of each of the tasks in hours should be done. Now, a brief description of the project work breakdown structure should be developed. You need to develop a breakdown of all the tasks that should be carried out in that project, and then the project schedule should be represented either using a Gantt chart or a part chart analysis. So in most cases, you will be required to have a Gantt chart, and a Gantt chart is basically a list of the activities that should be carried out against the time and represented in a nice Gantt chart here, where we have different tools you can use to develop a Gantt chart. So it's good to know that you can do that, or you can develop your Gantt chart easily using the different tools that we have for drawing your project schedule. Then we move to chapter 2, which is the literature review. When you are looking at the 3 main things that your proposal should have, we said it should have a rationale, and then the next thing is it should look at literature that is already available about what you're doing. So your literature review should span through at least 3 pages, up to 5. Then this is a brief write-up on similar systems developed and research that has been done, maybe in literature, books, journals, the internet, and so, or even other maybe magazines, whatever has been published about what you are doing or something related to what you are doing. So it's good to read what people have done so that you don't do work that has already been done. And then the literature review should not be just a compilation or reproduction of the works of others. It requires that the student examines and comments critically on literature relevant to the student's project area or area of research. So it's good that you when you read, you get other people's minds, you get what other people have done. So it is very important so that you are in the picture, or you have an idea of what has been done, so that you know where you're coming in, what contribution you will be bringing on board. So that is basically what you review in literature. You will look at different cases or different scenarios or different works that have been done, appreciate the work, then now draw or come up with your own perspective and even the gap that you want to bridge. Now the next chapter is chapter 3, methodology. Now this is a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 5 pages, and basically the methodology outlines the plan of how you intend to carry out the project, your plan of action. How do you intend to realize that project? And it encompasses the all-round development methodology, driving your entire data collection to system development. So under here you will determine how or what methodology you will use to carry out your project. In terms of how are you intending to collect the data, what methodology or what model are you going to use to carry out the different proposal or project aspects. Then it should also provide a brief justification for the methodology that you have chosen. Why have you chosen that methodology? Have you read literature about the methodology? Have you seen other work that has been done in your field, and what methodology was used? Maybe the person who did the work praised a certain methodology. Maybe they said they had a certain challenge because of the methodology they chose. So it's good to be objective when you're choosing the methodology. Why have you chosen it? Is it a good, easy methodology for you? Maybe will you realize it within the time that you have? Maybe is it the resource that you have, and so on. Then something further about the methodology is that the methodology chapter should describe a model or a framework under which the system will be developed. It should address at least the following areas, things like what development methodology are you going to use, what model. In our case, we normally use models like the waterfall model, rapid application development model. Whatever model that you're using, you need to justify it here. Why have you chosen that particular model? Then you also need to see the tools that you will use for system analysis. What is your target population? What is your sample size? What is your sampling technique? What is your research sample size? How are you targeting your target group? Then what are the tools and techniques that you'll use to collect your data? Are you using questionnaires? Are you using interviews? Are you using observation, and why? Then you also look at the tools that you're using to analyze data. Are you getting somebody to analyze the data for you? Are you using the different statistical data analysis techniques and the different statistical analysis applications like SPSS and such like things? Then you also need to look at the tools that you'll use for designing or developing the system. What database tools are you using? What database application tools are you using, or database management systems are you using? What database language are you using? What programming language are you using? If at all your work includes a program, you need to program. So it's good to know what debugging applications are you using, what programming development tools are you using. Then you need to look at tools and techniques to be used to test and implement the system. How do you intend to implement that system? Are you going to roll the system to the users? Are you training the users on how to use the system? Have you prepared help manuals or help tutorials for the users, or will you prepare them, and so on? Then it's good to note that you need to avoid using basic life cycle related process models. For example, prototyping. And even these are not methodologies, basically. Prototyping is borrowing work. So you take prototypes that are already existing and you modify them. For this, it's an academic project. It's good to take models that allow you to practice and to even come up with your own original work. Then the last bit of the proposal is the references. Now you have done some literature review, you've cited some other people's information. Where have you gotten the literature from? Where have you gotten this material from? This is the part that you need to mention in the references. And normally the references is usually 1 page to a maximum of 2 pages. And the references are detailed description of resources from which information or ideas were obtained in preparation of the project proposal. So what literature have you read? You need to cite it there. What information sources or resources have you used in your project proposal development? You need to mention it. Then the details of every reference is cited in the text. Published or unpublished must be listed alphabetically in this page. You should list any materials that you have accessed, things that you have mentioned in your literature review. Maybe you've mentioned something in your background information. Maybe you have some informed citation from somebody else's work and such like things you need to mention. Then you need to use the appropriate referencing style, and the common ones are the APA, which is the American Psychological association style of referencing, and then we have the Harvard referencing. So these are the main referencing styles that are there. Depending on the recommendation your supervisor gives you, you need to know what style to use, and then you need to have an idea of how each of the styles looks like and how it should be done. Then what are some of the general formatting tips that you need to have when writing a project proposal? Now, note that you can do your project documentation in any word processor of choice, and in most cases we use Microsoft Word or WordPerfect when writing our proposal. So in our case, we can use Microsoft Word because that's the common word processor that most of us have. And then students may also use Microsoft Excel in case you need to create tables and even calculations or any other application. So you can import what you have done in other applications and put it in your word processor. That is acceptable. Then your paper size definition should be A4. We are working with a normal A4, and in a portrait kind of layout, don't bring your landscape or don't print it on landscape. Put it on a portrait kind of orientation, and then the color should be white. Don't put any background in your academic document or in your proposal document. The background should be white. Then the font type, normally candidates are advised to use Times New Roman or Arial font. Yeah, but most of the academic work is done in Times New Roman. Then no other fonts are acceptable. Then the font size is usually 12. Yeah, it's good to use the font size 12. Then for tables and figures, you use 10. Then for title page, you use 12. The title page is our first page, as you have earlier seen. Then for the table of contents, you also use 12. So for the main part of the document, you use 12, except for the list of figures and the tables, basically, if you have tables in your proposal. Then type in bold for headings and subheadings. That is acceptable. For your headings, you need to bold it, and your subheadings. Now, headings should be typed in all uppercase letters, while subheadings are typed in upper and lowercase according to your choice. So all headings should be in uppercase. It's good to note. And subheadings, these are headings within the headings. They can be in small and capital. Next is that the font style, only one font style, Times New Roman, may be used throughout the project proposal, including the title page, approval page, acknowledgement, bibliography, and appendices. So Times New Roman, if you choose to use Times New Roman, you will use it throughout the entire project. Note that the usage of bold variants of the same font style and underlining in the text of the headlines, of the headings and titles is at the student's discretion. So you are at liberty to use bold and underline according to your choice here for the headings and for the subheadings that you have. So you can decide to use underlines or not, but it's a good practice not to underline items in an academic kind of document. It's just good to have no underlines at all, but for bold, you can use bold for the headings. Then chapter headings are to be centered and written in bold. So all chapter headings, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, as you've seen, should be in the center and written in bold and uppercase letters. So you should have it in the center, in bold, and in uppercase. Those are for the chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. Then, as you've seen, then the font size for the chapter headings should be 14 points. And then other subheadings are to be aligned to the left alignment. So the only heading that should appear in the center alignment is the chapter heading. The rest should appear on the left alignment and should be 12, of size 12, font size 12. And then subheading should be uppercase or lowercase, and then underlining and boldface is at the student's discretion. Again, it's good practice not to underline, but in case you feel like you need to underline, it's okay. Then paragraphs. Now, spacing between two paragraphs in the basic text should be set to at 4.0 spaces. The first sentence of a paragraph should be indented to 6 spaces. So you should indent every first sentence. Then a heading that appears at the last line on a page will not be accepted. If you have a heading appearing at the end of the page, you can just take it to the next page. And then there should be a minimum of 2 lines of a paragraph at the bottom of the page under the heading. So at the bottom of the page, at least 2 lines of a paragraph should appear before it can go to the next page. If it is only taking 1, you should take it to another page. And then line spacing. The project paper should be typed on one side of the page. So you cannot type on both sides or write on both sides of the page. When you're going to print, it should be on each page only one side. And then the text should be spaced at 1.5 throughout. So don't put a single spacing. Don't put a 1.0 spacing. You put 1.5. Then the text justification, set the justification to full, that is justified, and the margins to the following measurements. So for the left margin, you put 4 centimeters for binding purposes. Remember, your proposal will be binded at the end of once you are submitting the final documentation, so you need to leave some spacing for binding. That's why we are putting it at 4 centimeters on the left margin, and then 2.5 for the right, top, and bottom. So for the top, bottom, and the right margin, you put 2 centimeters, 2.5 centimeters, but for the left margin, you put it at 4 centimeters for purposes of binding, as I've earlier explained. The final documentation should have the spiral binding, so you need that space. So that is it for our first lesson, and we have basically looked at an overview of what you should do when you're doing your proposal and what sections your proposal must have, and the required general formatting tips that you need to put into consideration when you're writing a proposal. So you should be ready to start writing your proposal by the end of this lesson, and you should follow the guidelines that I've clearly stated. Thank you so much for your attention.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.